What's up you guys, I'm Dan, this is Frugal Not Cheap, and today we'll check back in on the used car market, especially Teslas. So in the past video, we took a look at the used car market, which had gone totally bonkers. Prices were going way up, and prices were just ridiculous, especially for Teslas. So I had noticed the value of my car go sky high, made like there was a 25% return on it in a pretty short time. And so yeah, that was just nuts. These are meant to be depreciating assets, but we had a very unusual situation where we had the chip shortage, semiconductor problems, because of that and other logistical issues, we had long wait times for new vehicles. And so anyone who didn't want to wait that long was going into the used car market, and so that really bid up the prices for used cars to a ridiculous degree. Now here in early 2023, we are seeing things have been improving. In fact, they have been improving for a little bit of time. The Car Guru's used car price index actually peaked back in July of last year at $31,180, which wow, that's a lot. But actually it had been hovering around that $31,000 level since January of 2022. And so while there was a modest increase through July, it wasn't all that large. Basically prices were holding at high levels throughout the first half of 2022. Prices really started coming down around mid-September of 2022 and have been trending lower since then. In fact, the index most recently fell to 28,278, which represents a 9.3% drop. So that's good to see. Just in the last 30 days, prices fell by 1.3%. Over the last 90 days, they fell by nearly 5%. So it's a good trend to see. And we're seeing a similar thing happen in Tesla used prices as well. Prices also peaked around the summer of 2022 and have come down significantly since then. Let's take a look at the Model Y, since it's the most popular vehicle here in the US. Used prices hit a high of $73,278 back in July, and have fallen down to $52,192, a 28.4% drop. As you can see from the chart, the price declines in Tesla cars have been much more marked than the overall used car index from Car Guru's. And that should be no surprise, as the run-up in Tesla prices is also more marked for Tesla cars than for the other cars in the used market. So looking at just the last 30 and 90 days, again, you remember the index fell by about 1.3 and about 5% respectively over those periods. Tesla prices falling by 7 or 8% in a 30-day period, and between 15.5% and 19% over the last 90 days. Now, what could have made a purchase of a used Tesla even more attractive, there's a federal tax credit for used EV purchases. It's up to $4,000, but it only applies to purchases of EVs that are $25,000 or less. And what you actually get is 30% of the purchase price, so you would max that out at $13,333. Unfortunately though, I could not find any used Teslas for $25,000 or less in my brief search. Maybe you can, but if you could, then a great additional savings there. That being said, of course, there are other EVs that qualify, such as maybe a Chevy Bolt or a Nissan Leaf, something like that. However, another thing to consider if you're out there looking at Teslas is that, of course, we have, again, a tax credit on new Teslas. It's $7,500. And so that makes a purchase of a new car, relatively more attractive than it would otherwise be, as that $7,500 can compensate for a lot of initial depreciation on a vehicle. So, it's going to make things a little bit tighter between a used car and a new car. But, depending on how far out we go on that depreciation curve, then, the math is going to be different. So, is it a good time to buy a car? Well, on top of the $7,500 tax credit, we also had a pretty sharp drop in Tesla prices. They cut prices in some cases by as much as 20%. Although some prices have started to creep back up, especially for the Model Y and the Model Y Performance model in particular, as they try to differentiate that from the Model 3 and try to kind of tweak demand for the two different models in order to match up with their production rate. So given the price cuts and also the tax credit, it's definitely not a terrible time. However, if you do have to finance the vehicle, then interest rates are much higher now than they were previously. At the same time, the average new car sales price, transactions price, is still at or near record highs. And used car prices have not yet come down to their sort of pre-pandemic levels. Prices would still need to drop from the current $28,300-ish by almost $7,600 or 27% in order to fall back to the 2020 lows. Now, that's unlikely, especially as there's been a lot of inflation, so let's take that into account. We've certainly seen a lot of that recently. Using the CPI inflation calculator from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, $20,700 of June 2020, so that's where the index used to be back then, is just over $24,000 in January of 2023 dollars. So even on an inflation adjusted basis, prices still have to fall further in order to get back to those levels. In fact, they would need to drop by 15%. And this is no surprise to me, as even my own personal vehicle, and again, Tesla has a little bit of a different dynamic in terms of pricing compared to the overall used car market. But my car is still worth more than I bought it for. I'll show the curve here. So yeah, it's still coming down, but it has still appreciated, which is of course not what's meant to happen with depreciating assets. That being said, Tesla's a little bit special, especially my vehicle, since I purchased the full self-driving package, as it has gained new abilities over time. I don't know that the used car market is really pricing that in, especially FSD yet, but from a personal perspective, I definitely think that the utility and value of my vehicle has definitely improved since I bought it. But back to the original question about, what's going on with the car market, I would summarize by saying, yes, things are definitely improving, but we have some ways to go if we are to get back to sort of pre-pandemic levels. I don't know if that's going to happen. The market could be adjusting and changing, but just to give some perspective to it, that's where we are. It still looks a little bit expensive. So I hope you found that look helpful. If you did, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.